Welcome to Slow Down Economics. Today's episode is about a resource you can't print, can't borrow, and can't bail out with a stimulus package: trust. We're looking at how a system designed to help families afford childcare can, when oversight collapses, turn into a machine for large-scale fraud, and what that does to an economy. The first slide hits you with the scale. It starts with a few $1 million in proven childcare subsidy fraud. Then it jumps to hundreds of millions connected to the "feeding our future" case. And then there's the most alarming line, an estimate in the billions for broader social service fraud. Whether you treat every number as precise or not, the direction is unmistakable. This isn't a few bad invoices. It's a structural failure. Now zoom out and remember what the system is supposed to do. Childcare subsidies are basically labor market infrastructure. They turn public money into affordable childcare into working hours, and working hours into stable households. When this works, it's not charity. It's a productivity tool that keeps parents in jobs and keeps the economy from losing talent. The next slide shows what happens when that pipeline leaks. You see the classic patterns: overbilling, billing for days children weren't there, and ghost attendance. Then comes the concrete example. One operation billed for hundreds more children than attendance records suggested. That gap between paper reality and actual reality is where the money disappears. And then the deck drops the scariest concept: the 50% void. The image is half a crowd fading away, like half the services never happened. The claim is that investigators believed fraud could be at least half of the program. If you're anywhere near that, the problem isn't enforcement, it's incentives. The system is basically teaching people how to cheat. Next, we get the human mechanics of the scheme. It's described almost like a script. A center recruits a parent, sweetens the deal with cash kickbacks or a job that doesn't require showing up. The child stays home. The billing keeps running. And here's the nasty irony: the people the program is meant to help become part of the machine that drains it. Then we move from behavior to infrastructure, the open door. The system is described as pay and chase. Money goes out first, questions come later. There's no biometric attendance check, and the automated flags sound surprisingly weak, like not even triggering an error for holiday billing. In plain economics, fast payouts plus slow verification equals a profitable fraud business. This next slide is an important cleanup of the narrative. It contrasts a sensational claim, money in suitcases funding terrorism, with the assertion that an oversight report found no evidence for that. Instead, the slide points toward laundering into real estate and shell companies. The takeaway is simple: scandals produce myths, but policy has to be built on what investigators can actually prove. Now watch the curve. The chart shows a small flow turning into a flood across a few years. And the deck labels the reason: the pandemic multiplier, waivers, and loosened guardrails. This is the lesson every economist recognizes. When you massively increase the flow rate and remove friction, you scale the good and the bad at the same time, unless controls scale too. Then the attention switch flips. A single viral YouTube video is shown as the trigger that reignites the crisis late in 2025. That's modern governance in one frame. Institutions can ignore a leak for years, and then one piece of media forces a full emergency response overnight, which is exactly what the next slide shows. the freeze. Turn off the money spigot. Funds held until proof and even photo evidence is provided. It's the pure logic of crisis management. Stop the bleeding first. But it also sets up the next dilemma. How do you stop fraud without shutting down real childcare? The following timeline makes the political cost visible. Subpoenas, expanding investigations, leadership consequences, because large fraud isn't just a budget problem. It's a legitimacy problem. When the public believes a program is captured, every institution around it starts to wobble. And then the slide that hurts the most. Collateral damage. Thousands of children at risk of losing care. Legitimate providers facing closure. Parents, especially single mothers, unable to work when childcare disappears. The cruel paradox is that fraud punishes the vulnerable twice, first by stealing resources, and then by triggering a crackdown that also hits the innocent. The Restoring Trust slide is the rebuild plan. Electronic attendance verification, biometrics are mentioned, so the system knows who actually showed up. Verify before paying, instead of paying and chasing. And real-time analytics that flag impossible patterns early, when losses are still small. It's not glamorous, but it's what boring competence looks like. The final slide lands the big economic point. The damage comes in 3 layers: direct theft, opportunity cost, and broken trust. And broken trust is the worst one, because it reduces a society's ability to do policy at all. If you want more calm, clear breakdowns of how incentives and institutions shape real life, subscribe to Slow Down Economics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.